Well, hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my little gardening show. Um, it's been a little while. I'm down in the basement. It is, I think, March 22nd. And we're going to be growing here really soon, or really soon starting the seeds for the garden. Um, I picked up some pans tonight from Dollar Tree. A coworker recommended. Um, I grabbed some stuff from there because I'm going to be experimenting with soil blocks this year a little bit more in the micro blocks. You know, the standard 10-20 trays, I've got the grooves in them. See if I've got one down here. They've got grooves in there which aren't real conducive to stamping out your smaller blocks. It'd be better to have a flat surface, or relatively flat surface. So these should work out really nice, and I think I can get about 6 or 8, probably 8 sets of 20 in here, and basically start all my seeds in one little tray and it comes with a lid and stuff. Now I have to be careful about the heat, so what I'll probably do is set up one of these other containers or something with the probe in it so that it doesn't overheat the small blocks. They'll be a little bit more susceptible. That, or I'll put like a towel under it, something to kind of mitigate the grow mat so it doesn't get too hot. But excited about experimenting with the soil blocker, getting things going there. But I'm pretty much set up and ready to go. I got my grow lights are working. That's good. I've got all my equipment. I was able to do a pretty good job cleaning it this past fall before it got really cold. I was able to pressure wash my trays. So everything's a little bit more sanitary than in years past. I've got my Pro Mix. I've got my worm castings. Pretty much everything's a go. I'm hopeful that this year will be my most intentional year of gardening, growing vegetables and stuff. I'm going to try to dedicate a little bit more time to it. I'm going to try to do some succession planning, which we've struggled to do in the past, where once we kind of get it going, we get busy over the summer, and then I'm not like starting other seedlings. I'm going to try to do more this year. But one thing that I'm doing this year to get a start on the growing season is decided to experiment with growing my own greens over the winter. And so these are microgreens, which is essentially just, you start seeds in real close proximity and then you harvest them before they start developing a lot of true leaves. So these are ready to harvest. This has been going for about 2 weeks. Maybe could have done it in like 10 days, but 2 weeks is about right. So I'll be harvesting these. I've got 10 trays of these, little 5x5 cubes. Really easy to grow. And I was able to use up some old seed. So I've got a bunch of seed that's several years old. Some of it like 4 or 5 years old lettuce seed. And so I just said, well, what the heck, let's try doing that. So I covered those little, trays and got them going, and the seed's still viable. So let me just show you real quick. Take out the tripod. So everything's looking real nice. I harvested some the other morning just to sample them. They were nice and sweet, tender. I've got some leeks going too. I need to start transplanting those. separating them out a little bit. But gonna try to keep microgreens going. Well, hey there. I have a high hope. I like that that name. It's positive. Yeah, the greens are really good. I'm trying to do the microgreens because I'm reading up on them. One, they're just really easy to grow. Two, they're supposed to be a lot more nutritious. Like, I was reading something about the broccoli sprouts or broccoli greens, microgreens. They're like, can be up to 50 times more nutritious than standard broccoli, because all the nutrients are like condensed. You're getting them before they really get growing. And so I'm going to try to get some more seeds from, I think it's called True Leaf, a company called True Leaf that sells microgreen seeds. I'm going to try to do that. Well, let me show you what else I got going on here. Yeah, they're a good company. So I got my setup, my grow lights. This is a full spectrum light setup. I got this a couple years ago on sale for like $250. I think this is normally like $400, something like that. Maybe it was like $275. I forget. This though is these are LEDs too, but it's not full spectrum. It's more the vegetative light spectrum, which is fine because most of my stuff, the real intent is to just get stuff growing, and then I take it out and put it in the garden. But I'm going to be experimenting with the soil blockers this year. I got these last year, and they worked out pretty well. I'm going to try to start a lot of seeds with the mini and then transplant them up. I switched out the plugs for squares so I can use the mini blocker. And again, picked up these trays from the Dollar Tree, like $1.25. Those will work out perfect for my soil blocks. And then I had this is a real good way, like if you're going to make soil blocks to keep your work area clean, is to get one of these, basically it's a mortar mix tray. I got it from, I think I got this from Home Depot back in the day. And this will hold, I don't know, 9 gallons, 12 gallons. I don't know how big this is exactly. But anyway, I got my potting mix in here. I can make it, the key is to make sure that your mix is got plenty of moisture in it to where when you squeeze it, there's plenty of water that comes out. So it almost needs to be soupy. But once it's to that consistency, you just pile a bunch of this stuff up and stamp it in. Which I'll probably make a video on this as we get going. But the key is once you get them, you kind of come at an angle and stamp it and smear it in. You want to push it in to each of these cells and do that again until it's a full block. And then what I'll do, I'm going to put this back on the tripod so we can use both hands, not struggle so much. So anyway, once I get the little blocker full, where I've stamped it in, and then I push all this stuff in, best I can. Make sure it's all like level, but Really, the key is just making sure you get a solid block, that you don't get something that's like this halfway. And what I would normally do is just stamp this in several times to do what I'm doing there with my fingers. And then I've got my old tent stake, which is my favorite little gardening tool. It's just a cheapy tent stake. But the edge is perfect for just kind of making this leveling it off. And then when you push down the plunger, I push it down, but I don't pull the base to the plunger. Like, I just push down on the plunger and I wait until I see a little bit of water coming up out of the top of this thing, and then I'll pull the base up. Kind of hit it twice, and then you get your cubes, right? Nice little soil block that's got a little divot on it where you can drop your seed. These weren't wet enough, so they just literally fall apart. They crumble. You want them wet so they actually kind of stick together. But we'll be doing that this weekend. I'll be filling this up with pine mix, and we'll moisten it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've also got so keeping this in this mortar mix tray keeps everything nice and clean, and the idea is I would be stamping blocks out into that pan, right? And then I would leave space, probably one side of this open, so that I could add water to this at a slow rate, just so I don't cause the blocks to disintegrate. Then once those little blocks are done, and my plants are spread, I'd start making bigger blocks, the 2-inch blocks. And then with that cube inset, those little blocks will just drop right in there, and then I'm good to go. So we're gonna try that this year and see. Yeah, so this is Pro Mix. Let's see what I got. I got a whole block of it out here. I can show you. So this is what it is. It's got the fungicide, the mycorrhizal Pro Mix, but it's basically a soilless grow mix. Kind of a sterile, mostly sterile anyway, growing medium. It's really nice stuff. Well, what I do is I'll mix it with worm castings. So I get a big bag of that too. Let's go back out and show you that. I think I've got a bag of worm castings out here too. So I've still got a half brick left. I went through like a brick and a half last year. And I've got this brick. And I've got this bag of worm castings. What's kind of cool is where I work, there's a gardening store that's like a couple blocks away, and it sells all this stuff. It's like the worm castings are like $40 for that big bag, and the Pro Mix is about um, 40, 50 bucks a brick, but it's all I need for the season. Kind of keeps everything going. There's a lot of people that use all kinds of different fertilizers and whatnot, but I found that, at least for me, the worm castings seems to be the best. Like if you do, I do like 2 parts Grow Mix, Pro Mix to 1 part worm castings, or maybe sometimes it's 3 parts. It's not an exact science really. And then I'll add a little bit of rock dust in because I've got some leftover azomite from like years ago. But that seems to do really well. Like the plants don't need a whole lot of worm castings, like a slow release fertilizer. You know, you're only going to have those seedlings like in the block form for, 4 to 8 weeks, depending on what you're doing. Average about 4 to 6 weeks probably. And then you're going to be planting them in your garden. And the garden is going to, those roots are going to outgrow that little block pretty quickly. I'm in 6A. I think it's 6A. I'm in Southwest Ohio. There's another guy, my friend, Frugal Prepper, Tom over at the Frugal Prepper. He's a good friend, and we garden together, swap tips and stuff. He's a good dude. But yeah, I usually start everything, my cold weather stuff in into March, and my warm weather stuff beginning of April or so, mid-April. Get the cool weather stuff planted out in the garden about mid-April, and then the other stuff out in the garden into May, and it seems to work pretty well. Our springs are like pretty rough around here historically. I get this muck bucket too. Like I said, this helps out a lot. So I've got some mix that's already mixed up and turned with like worm castings and stuff that's ready to go. I can just take it, and like I said, it's really good stuff. Yeah, it's funny, the weather. I used to live in northwest Indiana, and it was a little bit different situation there. Growing season's about the same. I got maybe 2 more weeks of time here as opposed to northern Indiana, but it's not much. I mean, basically the bulk of it's from like Mother's Day weekend to the week of Halloween. Usually by Halloween we're done because snow, whatever, or usually get a real heavy frost. Yeah, mid-June. But yeah, the worm castings are great. Other than that, my biggest problem with the that's cool. My biggest problem yeah, that's awesome. I actually tried to overwinter some kale. My dad ended up pulling it all out. I guess it didn't make it, which is okay. I wish we did have a little bit longer season. If my buddy Tom, he follows the Mittleider grow method a little bit more closely than I do. and has implemented more of the principles. So he's got like grow boxes, and then made these hoops where he can cover, and he grew stuff throughout the winter. Yeah, we're gonna try. I use it sparingly, so I've got like the Mittleider minerals. Actually, I can show you that too. We got somewhere around here. So there's these mineral packets that I got a couple years ago from the LDS Prepper website. And one little packet of this with 25 pounds of triple 12, triple 13, triple 15 fertilizer, and then I think it's 4 pounds of Epsom salt will make a big batch, about 30 pounds of fertilizer for the year. And I figured out, I went ahead and did the math and got it where I can mix it in like 1 gallon buckets and stuff. I've got these little buckets we get at the strawberry farm. Yeah, so these little buckets here work out pretty good. And so I figured out, and I think I even have a guide I printed out. But anyway, I figured out how to mix like smaller batches on the fly. So I've got all the components of the mix, but I keep it all separate, and then mix a batch up when I'm ready to fertilize the garden. And it doesn't take much. It's basically like a dash of that fertilizer per. I try to hit each plant as I'm going down the row. It's like an ounce per linear foot. Yeah, it works. I mean, it basically ensures your plants are getting everything they need. It's better to work with the biology of the soil than a chemical solution. The Mittleider gardening method assumes that you can help you regardless of the condition of your ground that you're working with. Yeah. My ground's been pretty good. We've been adding leaf mulch. If you check out my channel and yeah, it's good to experiment and just see if it works. But I will. We've been doing leaf mulch every year for like the last 6-7 years, and it's really improved the ground, the composition of the ground. There's still a lot of clay. Yeah, that's a big thing. You can over fertilize and end up burning your soil, basically kill the biology in the soil, or make it to where it's not very hospitable. And so I just use a dash, and then just kind of wait, let the plants tell me, if they look like they need to be fed, I feed them. I go ahead and I'm in the ground, put some fertilizer down, but other than that, maybe fertilize initially up through, I don't know, through June, and then it's kind of going on its own, and it really doesn't require a whole lot, especially the tomatoes. Like once, I think that's with all the crops, once they're producing, you're supposed to back off, and you don't need to really fertilize them anymore. I forget, it's been a while since I've read the manual. I bought the course and everything. I've got the book or the electronic copy, but it works. We had a lot of success. We've grown a ton of stuff over the years. using that, but I don't follow it religiously. I mean, I'm kind of doing my own thing where I'm trying to improve the ground and not minimize. Like, I try to keep it covered as much as possible. I try to disturb the ground as little as possible, and I try to keep it planted through the growing season as much as possible. I'd like to keep it planted year round, like do cover crops and stuff, but we just usually the weather turns really bad and it goes straight from fall to like winter pretty quickly. And then same with the spring, like we don't have much of a spring. It's typically really cold, or the weather fluctuates so much. It's just difficult unless you've got some kind of cover you're growing under. It just makes it difficult to keep things going. So, but yeah. So anyway, we got everything ready to go. Another thing you should check out. I think I've got a video on that too. It's my last like full length video is on this Seed Time app. That I register. It's free to set up an account and stuff, and a lot of the features are free, at least for like the home gardener. But you can map out all your plantings and succession plantings and stuff. So that's what I did this year, and gonna try to follow that guide as the year goes on. Pretty neat tool, and it's free. Though you can do a paid subscription, or you can purchase various modules or components on it. But it looks like they're doing some really good stuff. Yeah, that's the key. You're gonna try to keep the succession planting going. So, but this weekend we're gonna start seeds. I'm gonna get things growing. Started to experiment with the soil blocks, see if I can get some stuff sprouted that way, and then pot them up to the bigger blocks. And then the other thing that I gotta be careful of in this grow room environment, last year, and I think it was with the addition of the second heat mat, because before I only had one table that was supported by a heat mat and a thermostat, and then I upgraded and I got a whole second setup to double my capacity and stuff. It got too warm in the grow room and there wasn't enough ventilation, and so I noticed I started having issues with gray mold, big time on the tomatoes. I was trying to grow some tomatoes for my friend Tom, and I had a 10-20 tray like this, and I did them in soil blocks, so there were like 50 tomatoes in one tray growing, and they started developing a gray mold, and I had those things pruned up to where it was just all stalk and maybe just a little bitty like pom-pom top of leaves, and they were like 1.5 foot tall by the time I got them out to him now, which is good. Well, he plants them deep, so it wasn't a big deal for him, but I was concerned that the gray mold was gonna get them. But once he got them out in the garden and it got the right ventilation, the gray mold went away. Like, he didn't have any issues with that, other than I think some tube grubs. Whoops, my timer just went off. Let's flip the switch on that. So I got yeah, that helps with ventilation. See if we can hit that switch again. Good to know the timer works. So anyway, really excited about this year. Should be really fun. Hope to make some gardening videos. I've been kind of slacking this winter, just taking a break from doing a whole lot that way. It's just been a lot of other stuff going on, but as we get into it, I'm gonna try to make some videos, some tutorials and stuff, and I don't know. We'll see how this year goes. Also got the microgreen bottom trays. They're kind of neat. They're only 1 inch deep, and the 1020 tray covers will fit over these, which is nice. So I'm going to try to do some stuff with those this year. Also got a real good deal on Amazon, the plant markers this year, and these are like kind of heavy duty. It's like $6-7 for 200 of them. I just need to get a waterproof marker, or use my labeler again to label. But how I plan to do the soil blocks is I'll just lay them horizontally on the block, like between the blocks, to mark when I'm starting. And then once they get bigger, you know, maybe stab them into the block. What I've been doing with the I think tomatoes and peppers, because they stay a little bit longer, like usually I keep the tomatoes like at least 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and then the peppers at least 8 weeks, if not a little bit longer, as I pot them up. So I'll get them started in the soil blocks initially, but eventually pot them up to a full-size pot like this to get a real good root ball going, so that they'll do well in the garden. Because usually once I get them out in the garden, it's pretty brutal conditions out there at my dad's house, because of open field and the straight line wind and all the rest. So it takes a little bit for them to get adjusted. So the better the rootstock they have, the more likely they'll survive, you know, and do well, you know, and not be overwhelmed by the conditions and stuff. So anywho, that's what we got going on. Like I said, I'm got it ready to go. Should be interesting this year. Then looking forward again with the microgreens, you know, trying to keep these going as well. I'm gonna try to harvest some of these, so we'll get them for breakfast tomorrow. So anywho, appreciate everyone. Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you dropping in and chatting with me. It makes these live streams more fun, you know, to have them like a little bit interactive, where it's not just me like lecturing or trying to like make stuff up, right? But I should probably get going. Gotta hit work early. Got one more day before the weekend. Got a lot going on at work. So anywho, I'll try to make some more videos. Maybe do some more live streaming too, this grow season. So maybe I'll catch you on one of those, or, you know, commenting on the videos, correspond and all that. So anywho, I appreciate everybody dropping in. I see there's a couple people watching, just haven't chimed in yet, but we'll catch you on the next one. Happy gardening. Good night.